and Patrick Johnston was sweating, shining a little too bright.
His glasses were shining
for
bright.
us
Yeah.
at Rogers Arena, where there was a heck of a glare coming off his glasses. Almost looked like some sort of superhero. X-ray vision, and so he is gone sans glasses here, and that's pretty jarring. I gotta say, I don't see you very often without the glasses. They're a big part of your identity.
I guess
your
so.
brand.
Yeah, I still never think about it, but I guess so. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Yes, had to position myself up here in the press box, and there's a big white. I don't know what's going on with the scoreboard. They don't have anything on the scoreboard. Usually, they have like made up score from a made-up game with made-up lines, and there's just a big white line around the bottom rim. That was throwing off my glasses, so here we are.
Okay.
You can see my whole handsome face.
And all the people who are audio only, they don't give a single solitary.
No,
so we'll
exactly.
move on.
Yeah.
We'll move on.
Care. Why are we wasting time?
Let me ask you our Surrey Mitsubishi poll question here. Patrick, you spent time covering. Do you feel bad for poor Bo Horvat?
No.
So much losing. PJ.
All that losing.
Listen, I did say once Bo Horvat deserves to play so many more playoff games because every year he showed up for this team, right? Yeah. Like every year through a lot of really crappy seasons, bad decisions, bad lineups, bad line mates, bad, on and on and on. Remember when he and Ben Berchi and Brock Besser were the first line? I mean, Brock Besser is a first liner, but that was asking them to do a lot, and that was kind of a statement about Jim Benning's Canucks, and Bo Horvat lived that. Listen, he's getting paid very well. He lives in a very nice place, and they're not winning. They're not playing great. But they made the playoffs they made the playoffs, right? Like
they did make the playoffs last year.
He has played playoff games. So
he's played 11 playoff games with the Islanders over 2 first-round exits. He has but the 5 points. Do we all remember when he went beast mode there in the bubble playoffs? 10 goals in 17 games.
The hooting and the hollering in the tunnel as he was coming off the ice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He was pumped.
Yeah, no, because we always said, he's going to be a playoff player.
Yeah. And he was in the worst circumstances. I mean, the guy, you ask any guys about that experience now, and they're like, oh, my God, I don't want to think about it again. It was horrible. And you can totally, I mean, they were in jail. But he brought it every night. And you think about those, he would pick up the puck in his own end, and you're like, he's going to go score. And then he would. And, maybe there was a bit of a shinny element at times to some of the opposition. But he got it done. And then, he got it done. He kept getting it done. And then they come out of the bubble, and everything's a disaster, and the ownership won't spend any money, and the team's terrible. They all got COVID. And then the things just go worse. Wow. And I guess, did they go bad to worse? I guess they did, because they all got COVID again, and then the coach got fired, and on and on. So, yeah, I mean, the guy lived a lot of stuff here, and now he's in a place that's obviously has its own quirks.
Well, Lou, it's got Lou. That's the biggest quirk of all, and an aging, seemingly out of touch Lou Lamoriello.
Yeah.
I have visuals in my mind about Bo Horvat driving the net and just carrying people with him in that postseason.
Yes.
I love what you said, though. He was the perfect player for that scenario, because with Bo, it's not about the bullshit, right? Like, he was like, okay, well, yeah, exactly. So we're sequestered here in Edmonton in this bubble, and it really sucks, but guess what? We've got hockey games to play and win, and that's going to be my focus. And he was a rules-oriented guy, so that the team and his teammates let him down on several occasions, and the organization letting him down with really, really poor COVID protocol. I mean, they were amongst the worst teams in sports for that.
Well, they had the worst outbreak in North American sports, and that was not. Let's just put it this way. I mean, it's 3 years ago, but let's be clear, that was not an accident in hindsight.
No, you had guys who didn't respect the rules, and they got COVID, and the other thing. Meanwhile, you had the most rules-oriented captain there, and it was a big letdown.
Well, and a guy who who wanted to do right. Like you think about him putting his hand up when the Black Lives Matter stuff was happening in the bubble. And, I wrote a couple of stories when he put his hand up. They first started doing Every Child Matters and dealing with Indigenous issues, and him having the ability to set himself aside and try to learn more about his own priors, what he thought was how the world is, and challenging himself a little bit, and trying to take a leadership role for the community. A guy that understood the role of the captain of the Vancouver Canucks, which has always meant more than just being the guy on the ice who talks to the ref, and you are a community spokesman, and he was that guy.
Because of the leadership he provides, do you think late in his career, with maybe 2 to 3 years left on that deal, he's one of those deadline kind of acquisitions as a 34-year-old that contributes on a cup contender?
I mean, what does he still have at that point, right? But yeah, absolutely.
We'll see.
He's going to be that kind of guy, right? Like he's not Ryan O'Reilly, right? Like he's never going to be that guy. He's never been good enough, but he's always been good enough to be a solid second line center. Help, listen how much they talk about him on the power play, a power play weapon, a guy who built himself into a better player offensively. If that's still there, then yeah, absolutely, he's going to be that guy.
And maybe he actually plays more defense as he gets older because he doesn't have to be relied upon to play offense. We'll see if there's development.
Yeah, I mean, that was always something he had to learn more. Like the penalty killing was never
didn't come naturally. No,
but a guy who, like, in the end, you've seen the work he put in on his skating, on his work in the slot. I mean, I remember he figured out tipping. Like he really did figure out how to be a weapon in front of the net and how to separate himself from defenders worked with Adam Oates to understand how teams were defending net front and where the seam was, and he found the seam, and he was very, very good at that. So in terms of learning a defensive game, I mean, he added to his offensive game. There's plenty of reason to think he can take that sort of understanding of the game and turn it into a defensive asset.
There is this troublesome little fact, though, about Bo's tenure here. Much as he tried to lead, I don't think they much followed. And was he like too much of a humorless dad for them? Like,
does anybody like the 25-year-old dad? Like, nobody likes to be dadded by a 25-year-old. So maybe that was part of it.
Too much dad in his.
Let's be fair, though. You have to want to be led, right? And so,
fair.
That was a squad for the most part.
You can lead horses to water,
right?
It
was a squad that wasn't good enough. I mean, Tyler Myers and I have talked about this, and he's, Tyler's never going to throw anybody under the bus. But last year, I went up to, at least once, and I said, Tyler, you remember how you used to say all these things, but you guys couldn't get it done, and now you can? And he goes, yeah. I mean, yeah.
We weren't good.
They weren't good enough.
They
simply weren't good enough. And so, where is that? I mean, you had a guy, you had a star first-round draft pick constantly showing up out of shape, thinking he could just live on talent. The amount of time we invested in guys like that.
I had to tell people day in and day out that Nikolai Goldobin was the best option as a winger on the first line. And I still don't think I was wrong. He just wasn't very good himself.
I mean, Nikolai Goldobin was a great personality.
Yeah.
Yes, great personality. Oh, best line I ever saw him land. Dressing room, and he goes, "Oh no, Jeff Patterson! Oh no,
oh no!"
To you, he said that.
Jeff Patterson,
but it was a joke. He was joking.
Oh, okay, all right.
Hey,
but it was because things weren't going well or whatever. I mean, he knew, for all his flaws as a player. For maybe all his maybe he worked a lot. He was very self-aware of, sort of what the criticisms were from the organization.
Right.
He just wasn't sure what he was ever going to do with it.
Yeah, no, he owned it every time. By the way, little Nicky was 78 points in 67 games last year for the KHL's Moscow Spartak. He's only 29. I'm just saying.
Oh my gosh.
Jim Benny's frothing at the mouth at his next job.
Yeah, hey, just before we leave it, think back to that era. The one thing that we did have, we had dads. We had Premier Horgan right? Who was the dad premier, and we had Bo Horvat, Canucks captain.
And Tim Horvat, the literal dad.
And we loved Tim. God, did we love Tim.
It's sort of a game like the Flames game. Like, there's a lot of reasons why the visitors should not win the game, but you can't take it lightly, and you got to dot the I's and cross the T's. And the Canucks took 10, 15 minutes before they started dotting I's and crossing T's versus Calgary. Let's see how long they wait versus this team, which is, again, it's just a should win. Like, this should not trouble the Vancouver Canucks on home ice tonight.
Well, I think of the contrast between Tuesday's game and the home opener, right? The Canucks didn't let the Flames back in. Once they seized control of the game, they didn't let the Flames back into the game. And that's what happened on opening night. And, I mean, it's a sign of progress. We're whatever percent, what are we, 16% of the way into the season or whatever it is. Like we have seen progress from this team. There's still work to go, and we know there's still things to add. And I think, listen, everyone's talking about Marcus Pettersson. I think they're still going to swing higher than Marcus Pettersson. I think that's not the guy necessarily actually are looking at. It's and there's no rush. They're doing well. Like, they're winning, right? There's no pressure right now on them to make a move. If they weren't playing well or if they weren't winning, there would be more noise. There's just no noise, and there's it's funny when you think of those terms because they shouldn't be thinking about it, but they react to what they have to pay attention to what people are screaming. You don't want people screaming at you because first of all, it's annoying. You don't want to be accused of making moves based on people screaming at you either. So they're doing well. They're doing enough. They obviously need to pick up their socks against better teams like the Oilers.
Do you think the incremental accrual of cap space from the send downs to Abbotsford, do you think it's for a nebulous, ambiguous pickup down the road, or do you think they've actually uttered the sentence in the front office of let's do this so we have cap space to get a top four defenseman? Do you think it's explicit as that?
I do think so. Yeah. I mean, obviously you always have lists, right? Like, the one that people have been talking about, Rasmus Anderson, but like, what about, I don't know, Mackenzie Weir? Like, he's obviously on a big ticket. I don't know if that's really quite how you strike, but like, that's what you need to think about. What could we do if this, right? If we do this, what can we do then? And so the list is undoubtedly a long one. And as I said, there's no rush. They can see how the market plays out. And, but yeah, you just look at what they did in the summer. I always thought there was a missing move. I just said, I don't understand quite what's going on here. And we can see how they're playing, right? The puck does not move as well when not Hughes and Hronek are on the ice. They need a guy who can help them move the puck on the second pairing anyway. I mean, Brandstrom's helping with that on the third pairing, but they need a guy that can help do that on the second pairing. And it's not, I don't think, a terribly big secret what I think they're going to try to do here.
Dakota Joshua, how do you think they'll handle him in his return? Needless to say, this isn't just from...
Yeah, well, I mean, it's beyond the health aspect. I mean, this is a guy who didn't have training camp. I've said this just about every week. That has been the big part of this story. And same with Thatcher Demko, is getting the feet moving, getting the blood pumping, but getting it blood pumping in a regular way and then getting it at something that's close to what you need for a game. So, it sounds like he's going to stay with Ratu on the fourth line, and that's where you make sense for him to start. Like, you get him some ice time, you get him moving, get him out there, and then you see where things go from there.
He was a primary penalty killer for them last year. They're top 10 in the league in penalty killing, going in at 83.7%. Yeah. And Pius Suter and Teddy Bluger have been the most used guys there. Although when you get down to the second unit, JT Miller is playing. Bottom line is, do you want to tax Miller and Pettersson on your penalty kill?
Well, right now, Miller and Pettersson are out there to win draws. I mean,
right.
The 2-minute penalty kill the other night, I asked talking about that post game, and he said, that screwed up our comeback, crushed that 2-minute drill that those two had to do. I mean, they were both out within a couple shifts, but that was taxing, right? That had a long-term consequence at that point of the game. But the plan had been for them to win the face-off, essentially get out. And Pettersson's having a strong defensive season. The guy who's going to go out there, win a puck battle, clear the puck, right? They couldn't do it. So that, that's why they're in there. But yes, you're going to get Dakota Joshua in there because he's in your rotation, right? Like they like getting 3-4 sets of forwards out over the 2-minute spell. And Joshua is a very, very good penalty killer. Is part of the reason why they brought him here in the first place. And so having him back will just add further to the arsenal of penalty killers that they have.
We will play this game with Rob Williams coming up. Off the top of your head, and if you can't think of any, we can edify you here. Canuck-related quotes that stand out over the years. Tell you that for free. How high up your list is it? Is it like the ultimate quote related to the Vancouver Canucks that sticks with you to this day?
I mean, obviously, I literally say it is what it is almost every day. A team like that.
I hate that phrase. It's so big.
Oh,
it's
I know.
So terrible. It's so terrible.
But it was
like if you ever wrote it to deep. Oh my God! If you ever presented that to an editor, it is what it is. What the fuck are you talking about? Tell me.
What is it? What are you talking about?
Yeah. So it is what it is.
A team like that. I mean, those are the two that spring to mind. We choked.
There, you're pretty good.
Yeah,
he's ticking them off. You're missing.
What am I missing?
From a goalie.
You're missing a really big one from a goalie.
Number one.
Well, someone call it number one.
Oh, my contract sucks.
Yeah, attaboy.
I feel like we're on a game show.
Yeah, take that, Rob Williams. Take door number 2, please.
Yeah, you go out and win the turn tonight.
I want the Hawaiian vacation.
Yeah, that's right.
This fabulous bedroom suite.
He won the turd, and he's winning the Hawaiian vacation. Patrick Johnson of the Province and Post Media Canucks beat reporter. You're a beauty. Love you much. Put the glasses back on. It's time for you to glare.
All right, I'll go watch hockey.